Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed the last class itself. So yesterday in the last class we have discussed about the comparable interface and the complete implementation of the comparable interface and what is the brief discussion and how it is implementing and how the logic is working on, and I have discussed and everything about the comparable interface. And now here I would like to tell you that what is the use of that comparator interface comparator. And after discussing about the comparator interface, I will tell you that the main difference between the comparator interface and the comparable interfaces, and we'll be implementing this comparator interface. So first, while we implementing the comparator interface, we need to understand why we need this comparator interface and why we need this comparable interface. So as per in previous video, I have told you that comparable interface is there for you to sort any value or based on your criteria, based on the id. If you want to sort the id based on the criteria of the id, and you will write the logic like this: compare like this dot id mp dot id, it will sort itself internally. And if you want to sort the based on the alphabetical values of the employee name, you can sort. And if you want to sort the based on employee name salary, you can sort it out. So you can notice here, at all time, if I declare the same methods at a time, if I declare the same methods instead of the comparable interface, which is the class which is implementing, the class which is implementing, if I declare the same method multiple times, you can see that it is highlighting with the red color. I don't want to do like this. I don't want to face the conditions like this. So at a time, you can check the criteria based on the salary, or at a time you can check the criteria based on the name. At a time, can you check the criteria based on the ID. So at all time, you cannot check the criteria, multiple criteria. So if you want to check the criteria ID, if you want to check the criteria based on the name, if you want to check the criteria based on the salary at a time, you cannot check. So you can see that at a time we can declare only one logic, any one of the logic. So it could be, probably it could be a ID, probably it could be a name, probably it could be a salary, anything, right? So I can define the one logic itself. So if you want to define the multiple logics, if you want to write the multiple criterias of the logic, so let's say that for comparator interface, if you want to define the multiple criterias, if you want to write the logic for multiple criterias at a time without having any restrictions like this, without having the restrictions like this, I want to declare the all the logic at a time. So if you want to if you want to define the logic for multiple criterias, then we would pick this comparator interface. So, or else, if you have only one criteria to sort based on the ID, or else it could be a name, or else it could be a salary based on the. If you have only one criteria to sort the values, you can go for comparable interface. If you have multiple criterias like ID, name, salary, or it could be a department, anything. Okay, if you have multiple criterias, then you go for, I would say that you go for comparator interface. So in this session, we would seeing that what is how can we implement the comparator interface. And let me take off these two classes, and inside of the same package, I would be creating the one more class. The class name is, I'm creating this class name is student. Okay, and instead of the student, you can see that. So in this class, I would like to tell you comparator interface, right? Comparator, comparator interface. So you can see that. Let's say that. So basically, if you think about the student, what are the basic properties students do have? So students do have, basically, he has ID, right? He has ID, and student has a name, and the student has a branch. Okay, and basically student has a id, name, branch, or else we can take it as if double or float marks. We can write here marks. Yes, instead of having a branch, I will write here marks. Okay, and what we would do here is, here I am creating the constructor, and just click on right, just do click on a right click, and go to source option. Okay, and go to string, or go to constructor first. I need a constructor for this class also simultaneously, and or else after creating the constructor for my student class, then create the toString method also. toString method. Okay, and go to toString method and just click on just ensure that it should click it should enable all of these options, and click on generate, and my toString method also generated. So if I call any object, if I call any these related object, so it will give the object values like this in this format. And after that, after creating constructor, I supposed to have, okay, these are the enough, these things are enough. So instead of the same class, so this class is opened, this class bracket is opened here, and this class bracket is closed here. Instead of the same class, instead of the same file, instead of the same source file, can I declare multiple classes? Yes, of course I can declare multiple classes, but I should not give that for, I should not give for that class as a public. Okay, and the only and only for the class I should have only public. If I write any public here, if I declare any class here, if I declare any class here, then you should not give public here. Okay, you should you should make sure that. So in our beginning level of classes, I have taught you. So only the file name and your class name should be the same. So what's the file name here? You can see that I'm pointing with my arrow. So here my class name, here my file name is student. So as same as my class name is also same here. So you should not give public because of your file name and your class is not same here. And you can define the class simply and you can give the name. So let's say that the comparator interface, I would like to uh, write the multiple criteria. So I would like to define the multiple criteria. I would like to sort the values based on the student ID. Okay, just I'm writing the class name and the name comparator. My class name is name comparator here. Comparator implements implements writing comparator, and if you go instead of this comparator, if you go instead of this comparator, it is actually abstract class. So you can see that, just a minute. So it is actually abstract class, and just a minute. Okay, if you go instead of this comparator, it's not a class, it's a interface. So my comparator is actually functional interface. So when it comes to functional interface, it means that uh, for your interface is having only one abstract method. Make sure that. So for my comparator interface, I have only, these are the only comments which your compiler won't be considered. So instead of my functional interface, which is a comparator, instead of this comparator interface, I have only one abstract method. You can see that the abstract method is compare interface. So the T is type. Type means you have to define that integer or string or employee type or student type, your user defined data type you have. You can define your own type here. Object means nothing but that object parameter. That object parameter you have to pass here. Like you can take your object parameter name anything. Okay, by default they're given like O1 and O2 here. And if you see, if you scroll down this, you scroll down this, these are the default methods inside of my interface, which it is further for now it is not important. We'll go back, and now we have to, if you go inside of this comparator, and here I have to define the that type, right? I have to define the type. What's my type here? So my type here is student. I would like to uh, sort the student's ID based on the type of my student. So you can come here, and here I'm defining the generic type, and based on the type is student, and you can see here it is highlighting with the red color. It means that when I implement the comparator interface, it is asking me to add an implement method. So you can see that instead of the comparator interface, I have only one abstract method called compare method. So that is enforcing my class, enforcing this class to implement here. Okay, and after that I would like to write the logic. I would like to write the logic for to sort the student IDs, to sort it to student IDs, to sort the student IDs based on the student IDs. I would like to sort. Then what you would do here, in previous case what we have done here, you can see that, you can see that. So in previous case, if you want to sort the employee ID, what you have written here, you have written here integer dot compare this dot id and employee dot id. As same as we have to maintain the same case here, and here you have to write it is returning integer, right? And as well as you have to write here integer, which will convert automatically primitive type, and here integer dot compare. And what's your object here? Object is it's like a student object one, student object two, imagine. And based on object one dot id, just a minute, based on object one dot id and based on object two dot id, I'm comparing simultaneously student one id with student id two. Okay, if any one of the student became a lawyer, it will swap the values according to that. Okay, so after that I'm creating the new class here, which is called my class name is sample. I'm writing here sample. Okay, sample. Instead of the sample, I'm creating the main method. So as same as will create the one array list to store my multiple objects of my student. So here I'm writing list type is student because I would like to store student, right? Student L equal to, so if you want to store the multiple students at a time, then you can prefer this arrays as list, arrays dot as list. So now you can define multiple students here. Instead of these brackets, you can define multiple students. So here I'm writing new student. So what is the student is how many values are, how many parameters it is accepting. So instead of my constructor, I am passing first id, name, marks. So these order I have to follow while creating the student. So you can come back to this sample and you have to write here one or just like write like 77 is my id, and write IAKHIV, and just like write a some salary like 200 or like something like 10. 10 is 100 is my 100 is my marks. Okay, just not a good, don't go for 197, like. Okay, and just same as I would like to define the same objects here below that, 3, 4, 5. So I would like to prefer this 79 or 76. Here I'm writing Sai. Here I'm writing 98, or okay, here I'm writing Abdul. Okay, here I'm writing just writing like 90. Okay, here I'm writing Geeta, and here I'm writing 89. Okay, and here I'm writing Likita, some names, some random names. Okay, and here I'm writing 77. I'll take off this. Okay, and here what you would do here is you have to put semicolon here. Okay, after that, so let's say that I would like to print these values. Print these values. What you will do here? Just you will write one for each loop here. Because I'm a type here student, right? You have to define that student s, and just you can define your variable name as anything as you want. Okay, and just give here a column here instead of this for each method. Okay, and give your array list object name. So my array list object name is L here. Okay, I'm giving here L. So as same as you can define your own name as you want. Okay, and just I gave here L here. So in below that, just give here a sysout s. Okay, when you call this s, when you are calling the object, this object is internally calling this toString method. This toString method, it will replace that particular object values here and here and here. Okay, and remaining the rest of the things will print it as a comments. Means it's like a comment, like it's like a normal comment. It's not like a value. These are the values, actual values. It will refer that particular object values. Okay, and come back to my sample. So if I do like this, if I save this program and if I run this code, you can see that my values are 77, 76. I gave here some multiple 77s, right? So I'll give here 75, 72, and also 71 something. Okay, again I'll run this program. Now you can see that student 77, 76. These whatever the objects I have stored inside of my list, those values it got printed. Okay, by internality, this object is calling toString method, and using toString method, these comments are you are getting externally. These kind of comments you are getting, and these are the values you are replacing. Okay, and after what you want to do here is, let's say that I would like to sort the values uh, based on the my student ID. Okay, then I will say that I will call that collections dot sort. So at this time you are not using that comparable, right? So you are using that comparator, and comparator is having some different syntax, where if you want to call that compare these where we have that this student, right? instead of the student Instead of the student, you have one class, you have two classes, right? So this is the one class, and these are two classes. So if you want to call this compare, if you want to call this comparator interface of compare method, it has some syntax. You have to follow some syntax while calling with the sort method. So that syntax is, you have to pass two parameters. What are they? And I'll tell you. First, you have to pass your array list object L, comma, you have to create the object for that particular class. Which class? You have to create the object for this particular class. You have to pass through sort method. And I'm going back to my sample one, and I'm creating the new anonymous object. I can create a new object like this as well. So new name comparator. Okay, and you can have to pass two parameters. First one is a your list of objects. Okay, and second one is you have to create the object for that particular class. You have to create the object for that particular class. Okay, because of this class is implementing this comparator, and this class is not implementing anymore your comparator, right? And if you go back to your sample method, so after sorting, I will print some comment. I'll to separate it and here just I will call this for each loop method below this comment. Okay, and you can see the difference here. If I run the same code, so this is the first initial objects of values after applying the sorting technique. You can see that here my first ID is 77, 76, and 75 and 72, and like this thing. After applying the sorting technique, and this is internally calling your compare method of your comparator interface. After I have separated it with this comment, and you can see that when I call this method, you can see the objects here is sorted in ascending order: 171, 72, 75, 76, and 77. Got it? So this is how you can do like that. So imagine I don't want to again I want to sort my values based on the ID. Again, I want to I don't want to uncomment this. Again, I don't want to write the logic for to sort the values for my name. Got it? I don't want to uncomment this. Again, I don't want to rewrite the logic for to sort the student's name. Or else I can't remodify this method. I can't remodify this method. Again, I can't write this logic for to sort the my student's marks. Then what you can do, just simply you can have to define one more class to define that logic based on the sorting the name. Based on the name, if you want to define the name, it's a id comparator, right? Okay, just give here id comparator. No, it's not make that much difference. And come back to sample and just rewrite here id comparator. So now if you want to sort the values based on the name, what would you do now? So if you want to, I don't want to uncomment this, I don't want to remodify this. Again, simultaneously I want to apply this logic, and as well as I simultaneously I want to apply the logic for to sorting the names of my student. Then what would you do here is, instead of the same source file, you have to write one more class called name, or else you can define you can create one more file, and you can define this logic over that file. Okay, and or else you can create one more file inside of the same package. You can define this logic. Okay, you can define this logic instead of the same file. So why I'm writing the same logic here is which will make you easy to understand. So same class I will copy, same class I will copy, which will reduce my time, and I'll rename this class name, which is name. I would like to sort my values based on the name this time. Okay, and here you have to modify this logic. This time I'm not comparing that IDs. I'm comparing that names, right? So here what you would do here is, here you have to write object one dot, here my object one dot name dot compare to dot object 2 dot name. I'll tell you what is the process, how it's working. I'll tell you, no need to worry about that. I'll save this program. I'll go to sample. I'll go to sample and I'll copy the same thing. I'll copy the same thing here as well, below this. Okay, at this time I would like to sort my objects based on the name. Here I'll pass the name as my class name. Okay, at this time you can see the difference, what are the values we are getting. So if I run this same code at this time, you can see that this is the initial values. Okay, after this is the id. Based on the id I have sorted it out. So you can see that, okay, if I scroll this down, you can see that at this time it is sorted based on my names. So it is not sorted based on my ids. You can see that it is not sorting based on my, not based on the ids. It's not sorting, it's sorting based, it is sorting based on my names here. So capital A, capital A, capital G, capital L, and capital S. Okay, it is arranging in sort proper format. Okay, if let's say that if I want to sort the values based on the marks, again I don't want I don't want to go back here. Again there is no need to uncom again there is no need to comment this again, and don't need, no need to override this method to write the logic for sorting the marks of the student. Again you can write, again you can define your own class like this. Okay, here I'm writing marks comparator, and here you have to write as it is integer. When you are dealing with the integers, make sure that you have to write integer only. When you are dealing with the strings or alphabetical values, then you have to write like this name, or it could be a branch, it could be a department. You have to write, you have to call compare to at all time when you are doing, except when you are dealing with these strings. When you are dealing with the strings related one, then you have to use the compare to these name and compare to method that name. Okay, and when you are dealing with the only integers like double, float, integer, short, byte, anything, then you have to mention integer here, integer dot compare. Okay, if it is a name, if it is a string, if you are comparing the strings related data, then you have to mention compare to. Okay, if you are dealing with the integers, then you have to write here compare and dot object one dot, this time marks, right, and object one object two dot marks. Okay, and it is saying that integer I have to pass. Okay, actually I'm passing float type of value. Let me remodify this as int, and here also I should pass int, right, in my constructor. So let me give you a, okay, let me save this one and let me go to sample. At this time I will copy the same thing here, I will paste it over here, and just I will remodify the thing called marks comparator. I will pass the object of marks comparator. Okay, and when I run this source file of Java, you can observe the difference here. We got that for this is the initial values, and these values are sorted based on the ID. These values are sorted based on the name, and this last one is sorted based on my marks. So 77, 89, 90, 97, 98. As with previous one, as with previous list, you can see that 70, 97, 90, 80, 90, it is an unsorted order. You can see that this is my marks have been sorted at this time. Got it? So I hope you understand. So at the same time, if you want to write the logic for multiple criterias like ID, I want to write the logic for IDs also. I want to write the logic for names also. I want to write the logic for marks also. If you want to define the logic for multiple criterias, then I would suggest you to go for comparator. If you have only one criteria to sort the values, then I would suggest you to go for the comparable interface. Got it? And this is the thing is happening. And if you go back to the sample, if you go back to this student, so actually it is happening that my object one id is comparing with the object 2. Okay, if my object one id is bigger than my object 2 id, it will swap the values internally. Swapping means that second value will come here and my first value will go forward. Okay, and likewise, as I told you in the previous class, it will swap the values. Okay, just revise this previous video if you haven't clarity about what is swapping, the word why I'm using, the word which I'm using. Okay, and as same what we are dealing here is it is comparing with the object one name and it is comparing with the object two name. Okay, if any one of the uh, alphabetical ASCII value got 0 or greater than 0 or less than 0, it will swap the values accordingly. Okay, and also here as well, it is sorting the values based on it is comparing the object 1 marks and object 2 marks. It is picking two objects at a time. It is picking two objects at a time and it is comparing itself and it is swapping the values. Okay, till the last object of my array list. And this is the thing is happening, and this is all about the comparator interface. So if you have any doubts or if you have any if you haven't understand, if you want to me take as one more class about the comparable or comparator interface, I would happy to take one more class. And also if you if you have any doubts and queries, you can ask me. And my task in this class is uh, I'm giving you one task based on the comparator and comparable interface. The task is here. The task is and sort the values, sort the ID values of employees in descending order. Descending order. Okay, so I have taught you how to find the employees IDs, how to sort the IDs in ascending order. Your work is to sort the employee IDs in descending order. So just consider you can take any example. You can sort employee ID. You can take employee ID. You can take employee name, and you can take employee salary. Okay, and sort, just pick employee based on this employee id, sort the values in descending order. Okay, and apply this same concept using the comparator interface and as well as using comparable interface, and sort it in descending order. Okay, this is your work, and hope you enjoyed this session, and thank you for all.